What's up everybody, my name is The Goldman, and today we're gonna talk about Season 1 of The Bad Batch, and why it sucks! Just kidding, it doesn't suck, but it was a little disappointing. So what went wrong? Did this show match my expectations I had when it was first announced? What did I love about the show? What did I hate about the show? Well, let's find out. I want to begin by talking about my expectations for this show and what I thought could have made this season great.
I like this kid!
The arc of the Clone Wars was fine, I enjoyed the characters,
Cavalry has arrived!
but not enough to give them their own series. But the arc in Season 7 of the Clone Wars established something that I think would end up drastically affecting the preceding show, and that is how the Bad Batch deals with regs.
When did you start caring about them?
I'm gonna get into that a bit later, but you'll understand my point. I thought the first season had a lot of potential with its plot. We knew from the start that this would take place after Order 66. Given that the clones are replaced by stormtroopers, I wanted them to dive into how that would affect our main characters. These clones were born to fight, and all throughout the Clone Wars they have known nothing but the war and their brothers. When you strip away their sole purpose in life, what happens? There was this great line in Season 7 of the Clone Wars I think should have been the thesis of the show.
Yeah, regular folk don't understand. Sometimes in war, it's hard to be the one that survives.
I think we knew from the start that they wouldn't be affected by Order 66, so how would they react to their brothers losing all of their humanity? What purpose would they give themselves in a galaxy without war? In Star Wars, we rarely get to explore the life of soldiers in a post-war period. The only character we've really got to see this with was Cara Dune. After the rebellion, she decided just to settle down and live a peaceful life. Could the Bad Batch do this? Or would they feel morally compelled to join the rebellion? Now, the show does address a few of these questions, but in a lackluster way. What disappointed me the most was how the Bad Batch feels about the other clones. Remember how I said Season 7 established something that would ruin the show? Well, it was how they don't seem to care for the other clones. And they aren't just indifferent, they actively dislike the other clones.
We don't usually work with regs.
To them, they are just regs and nothing more, nothing special. This was such a big missed opportunity. We don't get to see them struggle with the loss of their brothers. They seem completely indifferent, and by the end of the first episode, they already have no problem killing them. Throughout the rest of the season, not once do they show any concern for any of the regs besides Rex. We never see the group struggle with the morality of being a clone. They just leave the Empire and do jobs for 75% of the season. It would have been so much more compelling if they were close with some of the other clones and having to see them completely lose their humanity. This would give them a personal stake in the battle against the Empire. The Empire would have taken away all of their clone brothers, and this would have been personal. But in the show, they are only against the Empire because they see them as evil. It's just not as compelling. The next point I want to address that wasn't completely fumbled was the Bad Batch trying to find a new purpose with their lives. When you take soldiers out of war, what happens to them? I would have liked to seen them struggle with this a bit more. It seems the crew has no problem abandoning the life of a soldier for a life of crime. But this is where Omega comes in. When Omega was first revealed in the trailers, I was really curious about what her role would be. The moral dilemma the series seems to tackle is doing what's smart versus doing what's right. Every time the crew goes on a mission, and boy do they go on a lot of missions, the crew is tasked with this dilemma. The best example of this was probably the Ryloth arc, which I think were probably the best episodes of this season. The crew is aware that what the Empire is doing is wrong. This is established in the first episode. So when they see what the Empire is doing on Ryloth, a younger Hera asks for their help.
I'm sending coordinates. Please hurry.
Hunter tells Hera that the mission is too risky and tells Omega they can't help everyone in the galaxy that is in need of help.
Omega, it's a big galaxy. We can't put ourselves on the line every time someone's in trouble.
Omega tells Hunter that isn't that what soldiers are supposed to do?
Why not?
Isn't that what soldiers do?
After that, the crew has no problem helping out Hera. We see a similar situation with Gregor in episode 14. But where I think this was fumbled was that we never see our characters actively struggling with this. From the first episode, they realize the Empire is evil and they always answer the call for help. But what would have been so much more powerful is if in the beginning of the season, there's someone or a group of people who ask for their help and they decline the call. Then at some point later on, they are faced with the consequences of not helping. That consequence being the pain of the people they didn't help. For the rest of the season, the crew vows to always help where they can because of the trauma they felt for the one time they didn't help. Or even better, what if the series began and the Empire wanted to keep the Bad Batch as an elite stormtrooper squad? They go on a few missions and they are ordered to do bad things, but since they have spent their whole lives following orders, they obey the Empire. After they commit a terrible act, then they decide to leave the Empire and go help out those they harmed. I think this would have been much more powerful than what we got. Something I want to talk about, and this is something that everyone has talked about at one point, and that is filler. I think this season was riddled with filler. Now I need to talk about what I consider to be filler. A filler episode for me is not just an episode that can be removed from the season and nothing would change. If an episode also just serves to set something else up, then that is also filler for me. You can have an episode that sets future things up and has a purposeful story. Lastly, if an episode only exists because of one scene or one exchange of dialogue, that is also filler to me. I really think if you remove 8 of the 16 episodes, the season serves the exact same purpose and the finale has the exact same weight. Every episode that there is just some random mission from Sid, it is borderline guaranteed filler. I understand that the point at the end of the day is that this is a business, and Disney wants you to be subscribed for as long as possible so they can make more money. You can still do a 16 episode season and not have half of them be useless. You may say that these filler episodes serve as character development, but throughout the whole seasons, the characters don't really develop. From episode 2 to episode 16, I really think every character besides maybe Hunter is the exact same. Omega's skill set got better, but as a person, she's exactly the same for the most part. There are episodes where important things happen, like the Cad Bane episodes and the Rex episode, but the events never change the characters in a significant way. We saw Wrecker have to go through the change of the inhibitor chip, but after the episode, it is never brought up again. That should have been something that was very traumatizing for the character. If you look at The Mandalorian Season 1, it is scary how different of a person Mando is from Chapter 1 to Chapter 8. Even Rebels, which had less episodes in its first season than The Bad Batch, has almost every character in the Ghost Crew go through a significant change. Ezra and Kanan are wildly different characters by the end of the first season. Go check out my video on Kanan, by the way. Even a show I loathe, like Star Wars Resistance, has much more character development in its first season than this show. Which character has changed from episode 2 to episode 16 besides Hunter? I'm curious to see how season 2 starts, because I genuinely think I can introduce someone to this show by showing them the pilot, telling them Kamino was destroyed, and they would be completely caught up by season 2. If the finale is skippable, then you have a major problem. I think this finale ranks as the worst season finale in Star Wars history, and that includes Star Wars Resistance. This is not good. So far, I've been very harsh on the show, but there are a few things I really did like. This may be contradictory to what I said before, but I do like all of the characters. The personalities of all of them are really unique, and I enjoy the banter between them all, except Echo. I have no clue what his personality is.
Is there an Echo in here?
Yes,
What?
I'm Echo.
Omega I also find to be incredibly sweet. She's probably my favorite child character in Star Wars, and I think she adds a lot of heart to the show. Omega is also just a concept that I love. I've always wondered what a female clone would look like, and now we have one. I just hope she doesn't grow up to look like this. The one thing that I love about this show, and it frustrates me that they didn't do more of this, is what the galaxy looks like post the Clone Wars. This was what I was most excited for when the series was was announced. We've seen the Clone Wars, we've seen the Galactic Civil War, we've seen whatever war the sequel trilogy is. But what does the galaxy look like right after the Clone Wars? How does the change in government affect the average person? While I didn't enjoy most of the episodes, most of them did explore some of these concepts. Like in the second episode, how we see the Empire start to register their citizens. Or with the Ryloth arc, we see Twi'leks being frustrated with the Imperial occupation. I would say my favorite episode of world building was the episode that took place on Raxus. One concept I've always wanted explored was how the Empire dealt with the Separatists. Seeing the Bad Batch go to not only any Separatist world, but the Separatist capital was great. I loved that we got to see clones helping out a former Separatist senator. I just want more of this. And this is a perfect chance to transition into season 2. Yes, I've been harsh on this season, but that doesn't mean I don't think the show can't be successful. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but usually season 1 of Star Wars animated shows are the worst of the series, and I believe the Bad Batch is no exception. It seems Dave Filoni likes to use season 1s to really explore the characters and have them develop a relationship, while season 2 and onwards really expands the galaxy. With Rebels, we saw the crew do a lot of side missions in season 1, and then in season 2 they left Lothal and the show expanded in terms of its scope. The same could be said with The Mandalorian. Now, I'm not saying I want cameos galore with the second season, but I want them to explore new corners of the galaxy and have the reasons why they are there not have to do with Sid and some stupid mission. God, I really hate Sid, and I hope we don't ever see her again. The Bad Batch needs to find a purpose to exist that is not doing simple bounties for a living. Maybe they form one of the first rebel cells. We saw that with Saw Gerrera a little bit. Just anything besides more missions. When it comes to the characters, I would love to see people not named Hunter, Omega, or Crosshair actually get development. I swear, I've watched every episode and I still cannot tell you a personality trait of Echo. I'm pretty sure in the finale, he had only one line of dialogue. I would like to know more about Tech too. I feel like his reason for existing is just to spew dialogue to help the audience understand what's going on. But I really want season 2 to focus on Crosshair because right now he's the most interesting character. I was pleasantly surprised to learn that he had his chip removed. I think this was a good twist, but I can smell a redemption story from miles away, and I'm concerned about that. I think a redemption story could work, but the way season 1 ends makes it really hard. Usually with redemption stories, the character in question will realize some truth that forces them to change. The truth that Crosshair will have to realize is that serving the Empire will not give him the purpose he hopes to find because the Empire doesn't care for its soldiers. This could be a powerful thing for him to learn, but the problem here is that in episode 15, the Empire willingly destroyed Kamino knowing Crosshair was still there. It makes Crosshair just look like an idiot at this point for sticking with the Empire. I'm not sure where they're gonna take these characters next season, but I'm excited to find out nonetheless. I used to ask myself, why choose the Bad Batch as the focus for an animated series? But after that last scene, it makes perfect sense. I know this is going to trigger a lot of people, but almost every product they're working on right now is going to connect to the sequels in some way. What else could Palpatine want cloners to work on other than a clone for himself? He's not making another clone army. I think in season 3 of The Mandalorian and in season 2 of The Bad Batch, we are finally going to get answers as to what all of this cloning is for. To me, it's obvious. Gideon literally says Grogu's Force Blood has the potential to bring back order in the galaxy. What else could that mean?
This child is extremely gifted and has been blessed with rare properties that have the potential to bring order back to the galaxy.
If I had to give The Bad Batch a score out of 10, I would probably give it a 5. 5 for me is just meh. There was nothing in this show that really made me super excited, but there was very few things that made me very angry too. Anyway, thank you everyone so much for watching another one of my videos. Don't forget I have new uploads every Monday and Friday on the channel, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Don't forget to unite the Clot Squad, and I will see you guys next time.